So it's so great to be here with everyone, and I'm looking forward to chatting with Keeley. So, Chris and Lucas, do you want me to say a couple words, or are we going straight into the fireside chat? What do you think?
I think it'd be kind of fun to go run this fireside. What, Keeley, do you want to come back?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Have a conversation.
Awesome. It's better than me talking to you. It's way better. I agree with Keeley. I think it's way better for Keeley and I have a conversation. How's that?
Conversations are so much easier. That's stressful. Okay, so I have a couple questions that I prepared, and then I have one question after that I get asked at anything I do, and you've probably been asked many times, but you'll just have to wait and see. Suspense. But, so, my first question for you is, what was your path to becoming the Minister of Small Business and Export Promotion? Like, how did you get to a point where you were there? What started it?
So it's interesting, it's an interesting question. A bit like you, the path wasn't, the path actually followed a passion, right? And I won't go over what Chris said, in terms of a bit of a CV, but, I spent 20 years, 20 years of my career basically doing public service, right? I mean, so you love science, you love exploring, you love learning, you love the insects, right? Well, I loved serving people. My parents came to this country. I came to Canada when I was 7. I learned English in Canada. So when I was 7, I did not speak like this. I spoke Chinese. And we grew up in my parents' small business. So like many of you who are starting your own business now, or looking to learn how to start your own business, some of you might already, started that way, and certainly the 3 entrepreneurs who are sitting at the front knows that well. But I learned the values of working hard. I learned the values of, I had great parents who basically said, look, work hard, and dream big, and you'll find what you're gonna want to do. That's kind of what happened, and but interestingly enough, becoming minister today sort of took a journey that required, in my mind, a pretty pivotal decision that I had to make. I had to make a fairly personal decision. I spent 20 years serving the public, so I did it in education, doing public policy work, and largely behind the scenes, but doing impactful work. Like, I knew our policies. I knew that the policy I was working on was going to create smaller classrooms for young people, for elementary and secondary students in this province. I knew that the work I was doing was going to deal with investments that were going to deal with crumbling schools in our system. But that work was largely done behind the scenes, right? I mean, I was making impact, and I was really, really good with that. I was on the ground level at a great university downtown. I mean, that collaborates and works with Seneca, but basically on the ground at developing an incubator. When people sort of said, an incubator, what? And it was listening and understanding the passion of young people. We had a lot of students come to us and say, I'm in business, or I'm in engineering, or I'm in social, in social work, and they had these ideas for their lab projects. And I remember vividly that there was this great two students who came into the president's office and said, I just won this great trophy, and it was on robotics. Like, they created this great, they won this great robotics contest, and I remember my president saying, so what are you gonna do? And they said, well, like, we'll go to our next project. We'll just disassemble this, this robot. And we said, well, what if we actually gave you a space to take this and think about what you might want to do with it, and maybe there's some application, right? And that was sort of the beginning of how an incubator. An incubator at that time that I was a part of that grew and started, and Helix is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. The work that Lucas is doing, bringing Y2 together, all of you together, that actually taps into your spirit and your heart about what you're passionate about. So I started largely behind the scenes. And when we were elected, and when Prime Minister Trudeau became the Prime Minister in 2015, I went up to Ottawa with no intention of staying, but went up to Ottawa to help the team settle in, and eventually, and in doing so, decided I was going to stay. I was gonna stay because I got an assignment to do that was another really impactful piece of work that, that was going to help Canadians across this country see more Canadians that look like this room, that include women and people from diverse backgrounds, be considered to be serving their country and being appointed in some of the top institutions across the country. So I was, so the work that I was doing was really about giving people a place to serve their country and to take on the leadership roles that they should. So when the position came up here, when this seat opened up in Markham Thornhill, and as and as a woman, and certainly as a woman from a diverse background, and certainly someone who came here as an immigrant and who worked who worked in their parents' business, not for a minute did I ever think that I would be able to be a cabinet minister, a federal cabinet minister. You just, you don't think of that of yourself, but the truth is that you can and you do. And there was a pivotal moment for me that I basically said, so I'm telling all these people that they gotta step up and they gotta serve their country and they need to take a leadership role. How much of a farce would it be if I didn't do that myself?
Yeah.
So I mustered it up and threw my hat in and ran in the by-election here in Markham Thornhill. It will be 2 years on April the 3rd. And I was elected, and the Prime Minister, a year after my election, appointed me to this post, which I love. It's the post is Minister of Small Business and Export Promotion, and working with Seneca, with Helix, with Y2, with the community here in Markham, but with all of the small businesses around the country. I tell people my job, you should come with me crisscross the country. I do crisscross the country. I've crisscrossed the country in the last 10 days. And I think I've met about 1,500 small businesses literally in the last 7 days across the country. But my job is to help businesses start up. So a lot of you scale up once they've started up and access new markets, because when you grow, you're gonna grow globally, and and Canadian companies are gonna rock this world. This is the answer.
Great answer. So whenever we talk about starting a company, we always use a word called a mentor. So we always have somebody who's a mentor. So my mentor obviously is Lucas, coolest guy ever. But
I agree.
So we've always talked about it as being something that's really important to one's career development. So who would you consider a key mentor for you in your personal journey? So who really brought you up, like how Lucas has helped me exponentially grow? Who helped you?
So I'm going to answer it in 3 parts. So, and you touched on this too, I would start the first person with my dad. And I call my dad a feminist, like my feminist father.
Yeah.
He would actually not even think of himself in those terms. I mean, he's passed away. He would not have thought of himself in those terms. And it wasn't until when the Prime Minister said, "I'm a feminist Prime Minister." When they asked him the question when he appointed his first cabinet, it said, "Well, you have 50% women, 50% men." And they said, "Well, why did you do that?" He looked at them and said, "It's 2015. Of course it's 50-50. But my dad, he was the person who, from the moment I was born, because I can't remember any time. I can't remember at a time when he wasn't. But he was the person who said, "You can do anything.
Yeah.
You can do anything you want to. Don't think about, don't think that you are." So I'll give you an example. Now, I didn't really like the answer at the time, but I did it, and now I look back and I'm like, yeah, okay, I guess he walked the talk. But my parents had a Chinese food restaurant. So when I got my license when I turned 16, I had to go and deliver Chinese food. So in other words, typically you don't see a young girl delivering Chinese food or delivering, but he didn't care. He said, "Look, go out there and do it, and yes, you can do it." So I would say my first mentor was my dad, who just decided that that his young girl was going to be able to do anything that any boy could do, and he raised me that way. So the confidence that was there, as you said, your parents gave you the opportunities to go to to the science center and to go to the museums, and it was opening the doors, and our parents open our doors in different ways, and different parents will have different capabilities of opening doors for their kids. But my dad, number 1. Number 2, I would say, I sought out in my career as I started working. I looked for people who I thought, boy, I really admire their work. I like the way that they, that they led, and I admire their work. And then I thought, and then I had to muster up the courage to ask, could I talk to you? Could I, would you give me some of that time? So finding people along the way who, like you found Lucas, or maybe it was the other way around, maybe Lucas found you. But that really does matter. And you won't get it right either right away, because sometimes you might think that person's great, but they just, for whatever reason at that time, they're not gonna have time. So you just sort of move on. But I think about some of the mentors I had along the way. The Prime Minister is one of them. The President of my former university was another who I worked for. The former Education Minister in this province is another. And it took a lot. It took a lot of digging deep. So the point there is, don't be afraid either, because you will surprise yourself that someone who's a great leader, they're going to want to give back. You're all giving back, and you guys are all exceptional leaders. You're giving back because the last time, well, based on the description, I don't think you have a whole lot of time, but you're giving back and you're doing that. So there are people who actually want to do that. So that's that. The number 3 part is that you're going to find mentorship in some of the in places that you don't even think that inspire you. So I worked with a lot of young people, and I was so inspired. And you know what inspired me about it, which is why I love the youth teaching youth. It inspired me because of the can-do-ness, because there is no fear, because there is this ability to basically try something. I mean, I feel like sometimes as adults you get to a point where you worry about the risk, so you don't try it as much. You worry about failure, so you don't try it as much. So even today, I look for mentors, and I look for people who inspire me. I look for that can-do young person who basically says, yeah, I'm gonna do it, and just watch me. So my question, when I come across that, and I do, it is so. Like, how can I be a part of it, and how can I be helpful, and how can I be a part of it? So because I think you always learn. So, but mentorship can come in many forms. Those are the 3 of my forms, and I think that they might apply to you in the room too.
Yeah. Your parents are always, even though as teens sometimes you don't always agree with what your parents think. Like my mom wanted me to untuck my sweater today. I was like, no, I don't do that. But they really are the champions of you. My mom, she's in the back right now. I don't know how to drive yet. That's on me. But my parents are the ones who drive me to these places and are able to really get it so that I can succeed in life. My dad is absolutely crazy in the fact where he will constantly be selling me in a way where it's like in those infomercials where it's like, guys, most amazing thing in the world. It can do this. Where it's like, even like at the grocery store, talking to the ladies who make the cake. They know my life story somehow when I go and just try and get a cupcake, just because my dad is a champion of me.
Yeah.
And your parents will always do that no matter what. Even though you disagree on whether I should tuck in my shirt or not, they're the ones who are there for you. They're the ones who are constantly being the champions of you. And they truly are your first mentors and will always be there. They're the ones that don't fade with time, because they do believe in what you can do. So everybody has that kind of person with them. So even though you don't think yet, oh, I don't have a mentor yet, I need to find one, you can always have multiple mentors. I have my parents, I have Lucas, I even now have you, hopefully soon, where it's always something that's evolving. So you always have to remember that no matter what you do, your parents always have the best thing in mind for you. So you guys being able to come here right now, some of you may have driven yourself, but some of you may have had your parents drive you. And that's really, you should say thank you to them, because an event like this is absolutely amazing. Being able to just interact with Lucas and Mary are amazing things to do. Your judges, did you see that list they had? Like, that's crazy. Like, I maybe have like 2 points. They have, like Lucas said, like 8, more than that, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. So you guys are super lucky to be able to be here and be able to pitch to people who do care about you and who are really truly mentors at the definition of the word. So I have a couple more questions. But
I think
so
this is,
Let's do one more.
one more. Okay.
I saw,
Yeah.
it's like, there are two people I look at. I look at Ivana in my office and
So, if you could say something to your 15-year-old self and just tell her really anything, what would you tell her?
You know what, this one I actually made notes for, because when you shared the questions, this one is really important.
Yeah.
Because I think about the world today, and the world today is not what it was like when I was 15 years old. What you have ahead of you is, in my view, way more important than what I had at 15-year-old. So I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say that and I think you all know this, but I'm not sure I quite knew it when I was 15. You don't know everything, and that's okay. You know, be kind to people. I was always taught to be that, and that goes a really long way. And the thing I would say, and I'll give you the examples, but the thing that I would say that is actually the most important, be kind, figure out what is really important, and know that you have to fight for it. Fighting for it means you have to work for it. And here's what I mean by that. And here's what I didn't have. I don't have the challenges that you have today, and we need to do this together. Climate change was not something I thought about when I was 15 years old. Who in this room thinks about climate change? Right. Who believes you gotta fight for it? We're all sitting around tables, and we have to fight for it. You don't get to drive right now. You don't get to be cabinet ministers right now, or members of parliament, but I do. My responsibility to you is to put myself into the place of that 15-year-old that I was, with what is you today, because I have to fight for it. But I can only fight for it if you're fighting for it. So I use climate change as the example, because there are others. Those who turn on the radio or look at social media these days, I actually stop. I love social media, and I absolutely agree. It's a wonderful, wonderful way to get to be able to communicate. But it also is a platform that is lending itself to conversations and dialogues that that allow for a negative popular sentiment that can literally drag people down. So we need to be kind to each other, because we need to be kind to humankind. Being kind to humankind means that we're gonna care about the future. I need to care about your future, and I need you to fight for it. You fighting for it will hold me accountable so that I care for you. And that's what I would say. So I did fight for things when I was, when I was 15, but I don't believe I had the stakes at it the way that you do today. I think that while there was always dialogue, and differences of opinions, there aren't the accelerations of the platforms, like the social media platforms, which are wonderful on the one hand, but it's very easy that the entire conversation could be one that's negative. So fight the negative, be kind to one another, and fight for what you believe in, and fight for the future, because I'm fighting for that future, and I need your help.
Minister Keeley, thank you for sharing your thoughts, and I really enjoyed just hearing the banter and commonality of theme.
Yeah.
And that you would offer the least effective to all of us in the room. So thank you very much.
Thank you.